From the News Channel 5 Network, this is OpenLine.
Hello everyone, welcome to OpenLine. I am Ben Hall. Good show tonight. We are going to be giving you free advice, essentially, on how to do very important things in your life. Things like setting up a will or a trust or covering the cost of nursing home care. And I'm sure you know our guest. He's been on many times before. Tim Takis, elder law attorney. Tim, thank you for being with us.
Glad to be back.
And so I run down these things, and we always get calls, and it's always so interesting to hear people's individual stories.
Yeah.
But I always like to start the show with, what are you seeing in your office right now? What's kind of going on right now?
Well, for one thing that we're seeing is that right now we're in the Medicare open enrollment period. And if News Channel 5 hasn't had stories on it, there's going to be stories on it pretty quickly, because just recently, just last month, it opened up, and so every Medicare beneficiary now has an opportunity to decide, do they want to stay with traditional Medicare? Do they want to go into a Medicare Advantage plan? Where their Medicare is Medicare managed care. If you have a Part D plan, which many of our older, our older people have, Part D prescription drug plan, should they change their plan? So almost every other case that we're having that are coming in, and particularly clients that we already have, they're contacting us, they're calling the office and saying, what should we do? Is it should I stay? Should I go with another plan?
And you give that kind of advice.
That's part of
that's
part of our part of the elder care planning that we do. Yes, sir.
What about the Affordable Care Act? There's also an open enrollment period there.
Right.
Is that anything?
That's really not what we do. Those are for people who are traditionally people who are uninsured or uninsurable. And so they have an opportunity to get into a that's the Obamacare that people refer to it as, is that they're able to get into, a plan. And needless to say, what we know is that everybody's required to be insured, and in return for that, the insurance companies are required to provide insurance.
So for the people calling about open enrollment for Medicare, is there a big change? I mean, is there something, a big issue they need to be thinking about this year they haven't in the past?
Nah. No, nothing. No. The short answer to that is no.
Well,
so
good.
It's not like, okay, everybody that's watching is going, man, I can turn over to NCIS or whatever, I mean, but.
Well, no, don't do that.
No, don't do that, yes.
No, because there are these other things that are so interesting to talk about when it's covering the cost of nursing home care. You have a loved one, you're caring for a loved one, and you're wondering, how am I going to set aside the money that I need to have them pay or to pay for nursing home care?
Right.
It's so expensive.
It is, right, and $7,000–8,000 a month, and for nursing home care, and people don't, as we know, we've talked about in the past, people typically don't have that type of money. If you're going to spend 3 or 4 years in a nursing home, perhaps, we're looking at upwards of $350,000, and there's not an awful lot of our population that can afford to pay that. And if you have a spouse at home, we have people that are coming in and asking us. Like, for instance, I can tell you, I know we always talk about, okay, what am I seeing? And it's always fun for me to talk about my cases, and I don't ever give names, because people go, oh, he's not supposed to talk about this, but anyway, the names are needless to say. But like, for instance, I had we've got a client in Hendersonville who, he's in a memory care facility, which is, he has a, not necessarily an advanced case of Alzheimer's disease, but clearly he can't live independently, and so he's been living there. And his son came in to see us about a year and a half ago, and saying, how can we plan for my father, and blah blah blah, and so it's like, okay, finally we're able to sell the house. He didn't get as much money as we thought he was going to get, because when his wife died, there was less money that was expected. And so son comes in yesterday and says, okay, got this money, what do I do with it?
Right.
We were going to set it up in a trust, we were going to do something else, but we know if we're going to put money into a trust, in most cases that starts what we call a 5-year Medicaid look-back period. And so do we have enough money to pay for care over that 5-year period? And the short answer to that is no. So sometimes it's like, okay, so what are we going to do now? So there's always sort of things that we look at, that the most important thing is that when we're planning for an older person is what is in their best interest. How do we integrate their legal, financial, and personal care needs in a way that meets, so that they get the care that they need, that they can pay for it, and they're at the right place at the right time.
What if an older person, their number one priority, they've worked hard, and they tell you, maybe no one has ever said this, they've worked hard, and their number one priority is to pass money down to the next generation. Make sure, I have this amount of money.
Absolutely.
And you said $350,000 for 4 or 5 years of nursing. Say you've worked hard, you have $350,000, you want to give something to your kids, but then you worry it's just going to be all gone.
Right. And then we have those, we have clients that all the time that are coming in and they're having those questions, and we're and basically what we're trying to do is we understand what their goals are. Yes, I do want to make sure that I can leave something to my children, or pass it on to the next generation. And then we want to talk to them about, okay, so what's important to you now? Is it important for you to live independently? Is it important for you to, but it's almost always when we talk about, well, I want to make sure I leave something to my children, I say, well, do you want to give it to them now? And they'll say, well, no, I'm still using it. Then we start, and that helps us have those conversations about, well, if you do wind up in a nursing home, then it's going to cost X number of dollars. Well, I don't want that to happen.
Right.
Well, how do I stop that from happening? Well, if you don't have anything, then there's nothing, then the government will say, well, we're going to pay for your care. So do you want to not have anything? Well, that doesn't sound like a good plan. I worked for 80-some years for this, and now you're telling me I have to give it to my kids? And then so that's the kind of those are the kind of things that we tease out for our families. And then since often in those kind of cases, the client says, well, I don't want the nursing home to get it, and I'll give it to my kids or whatever. And you say, well, let's talk about that, because then they start saying is, well, my daughter will take care of me.
Right.
So, really? Okay, so what is she getting in return? And then you start, and that's what's always so very interesting when we're doing our planning, because it brings the families into it. Because how many of our clients, or how many of our older clients, they have an expectation that the family member is going to be taking care of them. So it's like, okay, well.
And it shows how tricky this issue is of giving money away or gifting it.
Right.
Because there are people that think, okay, I'm going to gift this, or loan it maybe sometimes. I mean, there are probably people that think they can do these things, right?
Yeah. And I can tell you, Ben, that, I've been doing this for, as you know, I've been coming on, I've been coming on Channel 5 for 15 years.
No, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Right, so you've been coming on 15
and I've been doing this type of practice since the early 90s, 91 or 92, and I can't think of the last time that I counseled a client to just give their money or property away.
Even to their child.
Even to their children, right? Because, and I don't, and I know some people may be offended when I say this, but I say it in front of my families, in front of my clients. I say, you're giving it to the most unreliable people on the planet. Oh, I'll hold it for you, Daddy. Right? Maybe, and there's always those good intentions that the child will do that, almost always. But what tends to happen is that when Daddy needs it, then maybe the money will be there, but bad things happen to children. So how are you going to protect the money if you wind up in the nursing home? Because I have clients my age and your age who are in the nursing home.
Wow, really?
I think the youngest client they ever had was in a nursing home was, I think, 31 or 32.
Oh, man.
Because, and we don't think that's going to happen to you, but that's not planning. That's people come into us and they say, well, we want to make sure this doesn't happen. Our job is to help them manage the risks. Mm-hmm. Not to worry about a meteor falling on their head, but to think about the ordinary risks of life, and maybe not so ordinary, but that, if you have 100 people that walk into my office, 2 or 3 of them, who are 70 or 75 years old, probably at least 5 of them have children who predeceased them.
Okay.
I would say probably, and I don't want that, I don't want it to be on my watch, where daddy gave money to his daughter, and then 3 years later she dies.
Because if that happens, that money goes.
We have to know where that money is going to go.
Right. Or if the child gets divorced,
right,
it's going to be, that's part of the assets that
absolutely, yeah.
See, I'm fascinated by all that.
Yeah.
Okay, we have to take a break. If you want to call in with your story, your question, there is the number, 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. Also want to ask about, is enough being done to keep people out of nursing homes?
Yeah, that's
a good. What are we doing?
Because we're talking about a lot of nursing home thing, and most people aren't going to nursing homes, so we'll have that conversation when we get back.
So give us a call, take a break, be back right after this.